Crude oil doesn't exactly look impressive. It's thick, dark, sticky, and has a strong smell you definitely wouldn't want on your clothes. And yet, this unappealing liquid powers cars, fuels airplanes, heats homes, and even helps create everyday items like the plastic in your phone case. But here's the key point. In its natural state, crude oil isn't very useful. You can't pour it straight into an engine or mold it into products. It has to go through a transformation. So today, we're breaking down how crude oil refining works, how that raw mixture from deep underground becomes gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, asphalt, and much more, right here on Everyday Things. Crude oil refining didn't begin with massive industrial plants. It started with a simple goal: producing better fuel for lamps. In 1859, Edwin Drake drilled the first successful commercial oil well in Titusville, Pennsylvania. Back then, the main product people wanted was kerosene for lighting. Crude oil was heated in simple stills to extract kerosene, while much of the remaining material was thrown away. That changed dramatically in the early 20th century with the rise of automobiles. When Henry Ford introduced the Ford Model T, demand for gasoline surged. Refineries suddenly needed more efficient and advanced methods to produce large amounts of fuel. This demand drove rapid innovation, turning basic refining into the complex, highly engineered process we rely on today. Crude oil isn't a single substance, it's a mixture of hundreds of hydrocarbons, which are molecules made mostly of hydrogen and carbon. These molecules vary widely in size. Some are small and light, evaporating easily. Others are large, heavy, and thick. The first major step in refining is called fractional distillation. Inside a refinery, crude oil is heated to extremely high temperatures, around 350 to 400 degrees Celsius, until most of it turns into vapor. This vapor is then fed into a tall structure known as a distillation column, which can be over 30 meters high. Here's where basic physics comes into play. Different hydrocarbons have different boiling points. Lighter molecules, like those used in LPG and gasoline, boil at lower temperatures. Heavier ones, like diesel and lubricating oils, require higher temperatures. As the vapor rises through the column, it gradually cools. Heavier molecules condense earlier and settle in the lower sections. Lighter ones travel higher before condensing. Each level of the column collects a specific group of hydrocarbons, known as a fraction. From top to bottom, the column typically separates refinery gases such as propane and butane, gasoline, naphtha, kerosene used in jet fuel, diesel, heavy gas oil, and residue, which can be used for asphalt or further processing. At this stage, the oil has been separated, but it's not yet ready for use. Here's the challenge. Crude oil naturally contains a larger proportion of heavy hydrocarbons, but modern society needs more light fuels like gasoline. To solve this, refineries use a process called cracking. Cracking breaks large hydrocarbon molecules into smaller, more useful ones. This is done using high temperatures, pressure, and often catalysts. One of the most important methods is fluid catalytic cracking, or FCC. In this process, heavy gas oil is mixed with a fine catalyst powder at high temperatures. The catalyst speeds up reactions that split long hydrocarbon chains into shorter ones, producing gasoline and other valuable fuels. Another method is hydrocracking, which uses hydrogen under high pressure. This not only breaks molecules apart, but also removes impurities, improving fuel quality. Without cracking, there simply wouldn't be enough gasoline to meet global demand. Some fractions, like naphtha, aren't very useful on their own. They need to be chemically restructured. That's where catalytic reforming comes in. Instead of breaking molecules apart, reforming rearranges them. Straight-chain hydrocarbons are converted into ring-shaped or branched structures. These new structures burn more efficiently and smoothly in engines. This increases a fuel's octane rating, which measures its resistance to engine knocking. Higher octane fuels allow engines to operate more efficiently and safely. An added benefit is that reforming produces hydrogen, which is later used in other refining processes. Crude oil also contains sulfur and other impurities. If left untreated, burning these fuels would release sulfur dioxide, a harmful pollutant that contributes to acid rain. To prevent this, fuels go through a cleaning process called hydrotreating. In this step, hydrogen reacts with sulfur compounds, converting them into hydrogen sulfide gas. This gas is then removed and processed separately. Modern environmental standards are very strict. In many countries, sulfur levels in fuels like diesel are limited to as little as 10 to 15 parts per million. This makes the cleaning stage essential, not just for engine performance, but for protecting air quality. Even after all these processes, refinery products aren't finished yet.
Take gasoline, for example. It isn't just one single product from the distillation column. It's a carefully engineered blend of multiple components, including cracked gasoline, reformed gasoline, alkylates, and various additives. Refiners adjust these blends based on climate, regulations, and performance needs. For instance, gasoline formulas change between summer and winter to control how easily the fuel evaporates. Diesel, jet fuel, and other products are also blended to meet precise specifications. You can think of refining like cooking. Distillation separates the ingredients, cracking and reforming modify them, and blending creates the final product. Not everything becomes fuel. The heaviest leftover material from the distillation process can be further treated in units like coking, which breaks it down into lighter products and petroleum coke. What remains may be used to make asphalt for roads or serve as raw material for industrial products. In modern refineries, almost nothing goes to waste if it can be turned into something useful. Today's refineries are massive, continuously operating systems that combine chemistry, physics, thermodynamics, and engineering on an enormous scale. A large refinery can process hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude oil every single day. And yet, the basic idea is surprisingly simple. Separate what's already there, break down what's too large, rearrange what's inefficient, remove impurities, blend everything into usable products. That's how a thick, dark liquid formed from ancient organic matter over millions of years becomes the fuel in your car, the jet fuel powering aircraft, the asphalt beneath your feet, and the raw material for plastics. Crude oil refining isn't just about producing gasoline, it's about transforming complexity into usefulness. It's the process of turning raw natural material into the structured energy system that powers modern life. And it all begins by heating that dark liquid and letting chemistry take over. Thanks for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments. We might feature your idea. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that uncover the hidden details behind everyday things.